Hello, everybody. This is Sue Ellis-Saller, and I'm with Bradley Scott today, and we're doing an interview for Spiritual Business Spotlight. So, hi, Bradley. Thank you for joining me.
Hello, Sue. How are you doing today? Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And I just wanted to let y'all know a little bit about what I did. Sue asked me to come on here and talk about some of my work as a shaman and a Reiki Master and a psychic medium, and basically what all of that means to some of you, because it is a lot of tricks to have in my bag. And it's just basically, I am here to help you find your way through the dark. That's my job, and that is a job that spirit gave me whenever I was a young boy. And I always knew that, and then my whole life has been a journey trying to figure out, what does it mean to carry the light.
Wow, wow. So you're not afraid of going into the darker places with people to help them on their journey.
No, as a shaman, that's the first lesson you learn. One of my first initiations was, they take you out and you have to do kind of a soul journey or a quest, and it's to find your power animal. And that entails, they took me out into the woods that I did not know. The area was foreign to me. And they gave me some water and a little sack of food. And then I had to stay the night, and they would come back and get me the next day. And that was all I had. There was no tent, there was no area. It was just, find somewhere in this wilderness that you can feel safe. And so it's basically asking you to face your own shadow, because so many of us grow up as children, jumping at the monster under the bed and jumping at shadows in the closet. And, those are all things that we repress and that we keep down. And when you're forced to be in the darkness, you're forced to completely and utterly evaluate self, and
Right.
you come face to face with, it's almost like that scene in Star Wars when Luke Skywalker comes face to face with the enemy, Darth Vader, and the mask comes off to reveal it as himself. And
Right.
so the shaman literally has to go through an experience of death and rebirth in, you have conquered self. And so I had to do that as a healer, because one of the biggest things that I think it was the god of medicine, was that Socrates taught, yeah, Socratic method. Socrates taught, one of his other sayings, except for the Socratic method, his biggest saying was, physician, heal thyself.
Myself. Yep.
And it was because you first have to know how to heal yourself before you can heal others. So that was the whole shamanic journey. And basically my entire life has been a journey of healing myself so that I could help others heal as well.
Well, that's a good lead into the next question, because what brought you to this journey? Like, how did you get into shamanism and Reiki
Oh.
and mediumship, and what led you
Okay.
there?
Yeah. Well, it's that journey to the top of the mountain, the great mountain. And I like to think of Christianity as a well-worn, well-trodden path that goes straight up. It's the easy route. It's beautiful. That's like the main tourist route that we take everybody to. And then, so that's what I grew up in. I'm a recovering Baptist. And I so I knew I had a calling. And of course, spirit meets you where you are in your perspective. It doesn't try to jostle you too much. It just pushes you incrementally closer to who you should be in your true self. And for me, it was, I wanted to be a worship minister.
Okay.
So I learned how to sing. And when I was singing, I always felt another presence was there. Like, I wasn't singing to a congregation, I was singing to something else, and something else was singing through me, like it was singing to itself. And I was like, this is very strange. And I would have moments where I would lift out of my body and almost hover above myself, and I could see myself and everyone else. And it was just, I remember the vividness of the colors. And then I would notice I was out of my body, and I would snap back in, just whoosh. And
Right.
it like interrupted the song or something, and I was like, oh, well, okay, that was a little weird. And so um because of some life choices that I made, I got married and divorced. just because of different things just going on in my personal life. And that kind of made me leave the church. And then there was an accident that also happened whenever I was a teenager that really made me question and be angry at God.
Oh,
And so I ran away from the church as fast as my legs could carry me. And um, it's funny because I turned to my roots, which are my great grandparents were Native American. And then the rest of my family were Irish immigrants. So I started studying shamanism because there's both North and Celtic shamanism through Druidry, and then there's Native American shamanism. So I started kind of studying those congruently. And so I just wanted to understand what the Native American belief of was what is Great Spirit. Because whenever I was a little kid, I asked my pastor, where is God's wife?
right.
Because I had a mom and dad at home. Where is mom and dad in heaven? I'm like, it's unequal. It's not right. I mean, sometimes you want to talk to mom. You don't want to talk to dad. Like, don't make me talk to dad.
Right.
Kind of the relationship I felt with God. And so then I it's funny that I ran from God and ran to the goddess in more of the native shamanism and things like
Yeah.
that, learning with that. And she led me back to God and said that no, we are together, we are the same, we're the same, we're a facet of the same diamond. And I was like, oh. And it was one of those moments where I was journeying and I was going through training, and I just had this resounding message of spirit is all one. Whether you worship Durga or Maka or Allah or Yahweh or God or Jesus, whoever, it is all one. It's funny because that came up when I was studying at a Christian university to be a worship minister. They had a saying that all truth is God's truth, and if you change that to all truth is universal truth, it's the same saying. All
Right.
truth. So there's a common thread and a commonality between any religion or any spiritual path that you take. They all treat to be kind. They all treat to heal. They all treat to that there's prophecy and future sight. And they all teach that we're all gifted and that we all are special and unique. And it's your job to figure out what that is. And so I knew I had a calling and I knew I was God touched. And then as I started getting into more occult, hidden mystery schools and shamanism and Reiki, it just all clicked one day. And I was like, oh, the reason I love to sing is because shamans sing the soul back home. The reason I learned how to do a ceremony and worship ceremony is because I was supposed to lead rituals. Like it's so easy to me. And instead of now having a congregation, I'm singing to an audience of one whenever I sit with my clients. And I
Right.
can sing over them and sing to their soul and hopefully give them and hold space, which is what a worship leader is taught to do, hold space to truly encounter spirit. Because it's not me that does the healing. It's not me that does anything powerful. I am just flesh. It is literally the spirit that comes through me that gives me so many amazing results with clients again and again. And that even like yesterday, I was doing a reading for a client. I was amazed at the information that they give because she had told herself coming in, and I asked her if I could talk about this privacy, but
Yeah.
she told me coming in that she wouldn't believe me unless I could tell her her daughter's phone password. And I had
Okay.
written numbers down, and it was her daughter's phone password.
Oh my gosh.
She opened it up right then and there, and it opened right up. I was shocked because I thought it was like your daughter plays Sudoku. No, they were numbers for her. So it's funny how even though I didn't get it correct, I got the right information. So it's all about interpretation and working with people and talking it out.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing.
I know.
Seriously.
I was shocked. I mean, I was literally like, whoa, I had to like take a moment and be like, okay, sorry, I'm fangirling spirit right now. Like, this is pretty
Totally.
amazing. Yeah. Yeah.
But you made a good point, and I think that it's really important, especially for the people who are starting on their own path right now. A lot of this is opening up the channel within you. So not trying to be the source of the
Right.
information, but allowing yourself to be the vessel for the
Hmm.
information. And especially for healing, that puts a
Hmm.
huge burden on you if you're thinking, have to manifest all this energy to heal somebody or whatever. Or even
Yeah.
some people take on the sickness of the people that they're working with.
Which
And
that is a skill and a gift, and it's a very you have to be careful with that gift. I mean,
yeah,
you need lots of training and lots of spiritual guidance in order to do that effectively, or you're right, it will end up hurting you in the end.
right, yeah, yeah, because who needs to take on those energies? And yeah, you're right, you need proper training. And I think that's a
Mhm.
really, like, there's a lot of the path that we kind of find ourselves, like you said, I was led
Yes.
from this place to that place to that place.
Hmm.
But there is so much to be said about being trained as
Hmm.
well.
Right,
Or
and it's and that's kind of in the tradition of it. And it's not only that it's I'm not saying that people aren't naturally gifted, because I was naturally gifted. It's just that the training helped me learn what I need to do if something goes wrong.
right,
Whereas I would have been clueless if I would have, came, like, for instance, if I would have been doing a Reiki session, and if I hadn't had my shamanism, I wouldn't have known what to do in this situation, because I had a Reiki client who came in and we found out they were possessed. So
oh
then it
gosh,
turned from a Reiki session to a depossession.
okay, wow,
Very dramatic, very could have been very traumatic for her if I hadn't have been trained on what to do and remain calm. And I mean, it could have gone very badly,
right,
and I'm thankful that spirit had the foresight for me to learn that, hey, if you're going to do Reiki someday, you're going to need shamanism first. And you're
right,
also going to need a good Christian foundation to understand what you're seeing. Because even though you don't believe in demons or negative entities, that doesn't mean that other people don't, and those will manifest in them. And
right,
because they can make it real even if it has never been real to you. So we have to realize that in this world of energy and magic that we play in, that we are working in the realm of myth and lore, and we might stumble upon things that haven't walked the earth in thousands of years, you
right,
know and if you didn't read those stories or learn them from your elders or by reading books, you're in for a world of hurt. You need to really, really pay attention to what you need to do and rely on your guidance, or be able to know how to rely on your guidance in moments of crisis, because they
right.
do come up and they do happen.
Right. Well, I think too that our path leads us through some pretty interesting places within ourselves that we draw upon, experiencing our own personal demons and
Yeah.
working with them. And
Yes.
that gives us a lot of experience in helping others to work with their own demons.
Mhm. Yes, because it was funny whenever I was learning shamanism, they have a specific way of dealing with it where it's about control and subjugation. And I just felt wrong. I mean, I learned how to do it, and I did what I had to do to slide by in that area of it, because I just kept having this belief in my head that to bind a spirit is to in turn promise to be bound,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
because it has to have a balance in there. So it's like, yes, you can bind a spirit, but why would you want to? Why would you want to put your immortal soul into more bondage than it already is?
Right. Or link yourself to that soul eternally. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
Yeah.
any spirits that I work with shamanically or with my Reiki guides, it is purely voluntary and they all know they can come and go as they please. You know, it's not a servant master relationship that some shamanism schools teach. Luckily, I had a wonderful teacher who was very all about love and, you know, uh, equality and everything. So she taught that you should, I mean, she said you can work with spirits where you subjugate them and dominate their will. She goes, but why would you want to? I mean, like, why would you want to have a pit bull that's rabid? You know, just because you put it on a leash, it can still bite you. Like,
Right. And I love that you bring that up, because a lot of people are tempted to use
yes,
the
they are.
darker forces, or they're working from a place within themselves that's not from a sick place within themselves,
Mhm,
from a place of
mhm,
despair, despondency, jealousy, rage. Um, and so they're calling forth energy from that space and,
mhm.
you know, casting it out into
Manifesting.
the world. And then, I'm thinking part of my own work, and it sounds like part of your work, is making sure that you're centered and grounded in like a really calm, peaceful place with
Mhm,
only the best intentions in mind. And when
mhm,
you call forth from that place,
mhm,
what you bring about is filled with that energy.
mhm,
And
mhm.
so that's what you release into the world. And
Great.
it's, yeah. And I think that we're in a time right now where it's really important to center
Yes.
in love and peace, and and I hate to sound like woo hippie yay
No,
whatever,
you don't at all.
but it's so important right now. We're in a place where we can shift the trajectory of, I mean, I guess everybody is always in a place where they can shift the trajectory of the future, but
Right.
with shamanism and with energy work and with healing, there's so much potential there.
Because I think it was Gandalf the Grey that said through J.R.R. Tolkien that it's the small acts of kindness that keep the darkness at bay. And
Right.
so those small moments of choosing to be the better person, to do right, to give kindness, to give forgiveness, to give understanding, even whenever you are madder than a hornet in a in a Coke can, you want you want to, you know, be as kind as you possibly can, because their reaction is about them, but how you react is about you. And that will be what you manifest in this world. And so by being kind, you manifest more kindness. By being angry, you manifest more anger. And I think, and you've probably dealt with this a lot, but people that come to me for healing generally have been like, well, I've dabbled in this, or I did a Ouija board, or I tried this. And so they are gifted, they are open. It's just that they have no route to go. And so I feel like there are so many people right now waking up to, I'm having therapists recommend people come to see me because I'm a shaman. And they're like, well, their body's taken care of and their mind is taken care of, but we need someone to help them spiritually because they're still not making strides. And then the moment they put all three together, healing begins, because
Right.
it all three parts of self. You know, in this Western world that we live in, we only treat the body and the mind. The spirit is completely ignored, like it
Right.
doesn't exist, because it can't be read on a machine. You know,
Exactly. Exactly. Yet.
yet,
Because
yes, that's
yet.
true. I
Yes.
mean, and they are doing amazing strides to find where it does affect us, and you know, things like that, like the blue light that they found in meditating Buddhist monks, that there's a blue light that lights up whenever they get into theta
Oh,
trance.
wow. Oh,
Yeah, it's so cool. They said that because the brain activity almost completely stops, and then they said all of a sudden this blue light bursts in the center of their head. And I'm like, that's that moment in meditation where you're connected and you feel like your whole body just is vibrating and you expand out of your mind, you know. And that's that moment, that aha moment, that there's something more. So they are figuring out that there is an effect, but they don't know the cause yet. We do, but they're trying to prove it.
right, right. And I was just reading about this the other day, and sometimes it's hard to keep the trail of like, what did I read and how did that,
Where did
but
it come from? Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But where it was like the at the Renaissance phase where they fell into this place where everything had to be proven and everything had to be scientifically verifiable with this and that and the other
Mhm.
thing. And it wasn't enough to be like, wow, I feel so much better after I've
Mhm.
spoken with this person, or after I've
Mhm.
participated in this meditation.
Mhm.
And I think that our bodies are the most sensitive um, ways of measuring, like measuring tools that there could
Mhm.
possibly be.
Right. Yeah, because you could have a medication that cures cancer, but if it makes your body upset or your body rejects it, it's not going to heal you.
Right,
Because if you don't believe it will, or if it doesn't feel right to you, it's not going to help you.
right,
And so some people, going to a normal doctor and going to a therapist is enough. But for some others that need that one more step, because, sometimes, just like in school, sometimes we needed a little extra help, a little extra tutoring from the teacher. This is just another tool that I think science is finally realizing by having Reiki in hospitals and Reiki, going mainstream finally, yes, is that it's needed.
right,
That there has been this kind of fills a void that there has been in Western medicine for centuries. You
right,
know, because and it's the rise of the goddess. It's the rise of the old ways again. The things that were hidden, the things that were passed down from mother to daughter and father to son. These things are important because it's funny how I thought I was running away from God and I thought I was running away from who I was, and yet here I am listening to this shaman teaching me, telling me things my grandfather taught me in the garden, you know,
right,
saying a specific psalm over the corn to have a good harvest. And all of a sudden it's hoodoo. And I'm like, what? My family practices this and they're Christian. It's
right,
like people don't realize how much magic is in there every day.
right,
They have no idea. And it's funny whenever you start peeling back the layers, it's like it's so deep within our culture that how did they ever mask this? Like, how did they ever hide it in plain sight? That's how it
right.
was, right in plain sight, so that it would survive. It's the stories we tell ourselves.
Yeah. And sometimes, and the way that it's become kind of a broken chain, though, because,
Hmm.
for example, I live now in Austria. I live
Hmm.
closer now to my roots than I was in
Hmm.
America in some
Okay.
ways.
Right.
But when we splinter families in the way that's been kind of common, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with it, I'm just saying it's the way society has
Hmm.
has come up, then it is kind of easy to lose those strings that
Hmm.
that and also, with the way that magic and belief has been kind of demonized in a
Hmm.
lot of different
You feel
places.
dirty. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's totally dirty. It's scary. It's forbidden. It's like saying that you're going to call up demons if you dabble.
No, that's only if you speak Latin.
Well, yeah, when I go to Venice, I know I've been there before. So at some point in time, I'm just like, how do I know this?
Yes, right? That was how I felt when I went to Ireland. Oh, home. And then I did
Really?
the ancestry DNA thing, 75% Irish.
Oh,
Boom.
wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's
Yeah.
like a lot. That's like my whole ancestors stayed in one village for thousands of years and then left to go to America, and I was the product of that.
Right, right. Well, like so many Americans are, and then they became Americanized, and yeah, that was a huge, oh my gosh, I could talk about roots and how that,
Yes.
yeah, like grounding in your space. And I think that shamanism kind of helps you.
Yes, it does. And also, I think shamanism is great because it is not a specific religion.
Mhm.
It's more of something to add to your path. It's like a modality. So shamanism works with your core beliefs.
Okay.
And so it's like you don't have to believe in the Native American Great Spirit for it to work. You can call on God or Jesus. I believe Jesus was an amazing shaman.
Right.
So,
Right.
um, I mean, who else would you spit to cure blindness? Spit in mud, that is a shaman thing. I mean, come on.
Right.
Um, but it's just that whenever I started learning shamanism, oh, excuse me, there's a loud car at night.
Wow.
Um, when I started learning shamanism, I felt like I was more connected to my roots because I could feel my ancestors were there with me. And that's where your power comes from, because like you said, it's that line that has been broken. When you pick up the torch again that has been sitting there unlit and not being carried, you light it, and all of a sudden there's all these relatives there saying, oh my gosh, he's here, we have so much to tell you, and they do tell you. So it's almost like we're not in a renaissance but in the reclamation era
Oh,
of
I love
energy,
that.
and just we are relearning so much of what we have lost. And I think it's beautiful because there's so many great books coming out now, and there's so many wonderful options online that people are learning more and more information so quickly that we can literally reteach ourselves things we have forgotten.
Right.
Because as a race, let's face it, the human race is very forgetful.
Well,
And so we've made a couple of mistakes because of that. And so I think it's people like us, shamans and energy healers and teachers, that are here to be the voice of reason and say, we've learned this before, guys. We need to heal and move on to the next lesson.
right. And it also just expands your world in so many, it's such a beautiful way. It's like taking you from 2D to like 360D.
Yes, and it's like
Really.
there's colors you didn't know there were. There's animals you didn't know existed, and you can see and know things that you should not be able to know. It's incredible, this gift. And I feel like every single one of us that have awakened up until this year, 2019, I think, is kind of the cutoff. Whenever all the natural borns have woken up, and we're ready. Because I feel like 2020 is going to be a big eye opener for the rest of the world.
Ah,
And
interesting.
everything that we have been saying, because I mean, 2020 vision, clarity, it's going to be an eye opener for so many more that are going to be seeking people like you and me to it'd be like, what's happening, what's going on, like, why are they saying there's occultism in the such and such parliament or whatever, and we'll be like, well, and we can actually tell them, like, this has been something that's been out there and going on for centuries. It's nothing new. you know
Right.
we're going to be telling them that, because I feel like a lot of these gifts, probably yours too. I heard a song by Dolly Parton today. It was playing on the radio, and it's called These Old Bones. Have you ever heard it?
Probably, but it's been so long.
It's about this lady who casts the bones for her village, and they end up hating her and shunning her for it, and then she redeems herself at the end. But there's a line in it that I just wanted to read real quick. It says, "This gift runs in the family. I know you also know. I pass this gift on to you. These old bones, though, they're just for show." And that's one huge point that I have been getting with synchronicity. Tarot cards do not have the power. Runes do not have the power. Bones don't have the power. You have the power. Because I get people asking me, teach me how to do this, teach me how to do what you do. And I'm like, you already do it. You
Right.
already do it. And yes, it helps to learn specific symbolism and correspondence, but you can do it with no training at all if you can quiet your mind and listen.
Well, and also have the courage to express what you hear as well, and not doubt what you're
Mhm.
what you're receiving, because I think that's the block for a lot of people, is just say, nah, I can't know that.
Right. And even for people like us who have been doing it for years, we still doubt ourselves. And so many
Exactly.
people don't think we do. I'm like, oh no, I don't say half the things that I think or feel. And so I am having to learn. One of my friends who is also a psychic made me this bracelet that has some red agate on it and then a lion. And yesterday during my reading that I was doing for that lady that was so powerful, anytime I would have a moment where I would doubt myself, my bracelet would jingle,
Oh, wow.
it would rattle. And I'd be like, oh, because I'd be like, no, I can't say that. It's going to hurt her too much. Or, ooh, I can't say that. That's, that's not healing. No, Spirit is like, say it. And I would say it and her eyes would get big. And she'd be like, who told you that? I'm like, it's just, that's what Spirit is saying right now. and and if I wouldn't have said that, I would have missed out on that opportunity to give her those insights. Because yeah, some of the stuff was heavy, some of the stuff was difficult, but as a psychic, you have to be brave enough to dig deep, because you're not helping your client at all if you're holding back.
Right.
The
Right.
only person you're helping, and not really, is yourself. You're just saving yourself from looking like a fool. But
Well,
you but you don't, though, because the fool thinks he is wise, and the wise man knows he is foolish. So the moment you know you're foolish and you're gonna mess up and you're okay with that is when you become wise.
right. Right.
Yeah.
Well, and part of it too, and from working on the hotlines and from working in admin on the hotlines, I feel like
Mhm.
people are just like, oh, just put some sweet butter on it, and he's gonna come back. You don't have to do anything. You're perfect the way you are, and this and that and the other thing.
Right.
And it's just like, did you come to me just to be appeased, just to have your
Yeah.
ego like
Yeah.
stroked, or did you come to me because you wanted to get to the root issue of the problem
Change.
so that you could change things? And change is
Heal.
scary. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and healing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because it's a very fine line we walk as psychics, because there's always the law of free will that we can't go against.
Oh yeah, totally.
But I will be the first one to tell people, you are in danger, girl. Like, I mean, like, I'm not going to tell you not to go back, but I'm just saying it's probably not the best idea.
Oh yeah,
you
definitely.
because you can it, it's so frustrating sometimes with me with clients because they don't listen. And then they have to come back and say, oh, I didn't listen to you, and this is what happened, and oh my gosh, what do I do now? I'm like, well, listen this time.
Or they cherry pick what you said.
Yeah.
You say, I've had clients where I've said, you need to shift this, or you need to stop accepting flowers from other guys
Mhm.
because it's triggering a lot of jealousy. No, I'm not
Mhm.
going to do that.
Mhm.
Well, if you make these changes or whatever, then it's going to be nice, and it's going to come out. And they skip that whole change myself thing and say,
Mhm.
but you said it was going to be nice. And I said, yeah, it was going to be
Mhm.
nice if,
I said, but.
yeah, but yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's, you bring up a really good point. Like, we can only do so much
Mhm.
within our
Right.
sessions.
Right. And we're not omniscient. We're not omnipresent people. We are still human. And sometimes our ego gets in the way. And so we make mistakes. But also, I think the big thing to remember with that is that, you know, in my work, spirit meets me halfway.
Right.
I have to do some work to get there. Like, I had to do the training. I had to go to the classes. I had to go to the seminars and week-long, workshops. I had to do the work, and I still have to constantly do the work, because that's what a lot of people that have been doing this for years forget, is that the basics are important. You have to keep your meditation going to keep your mind sharp. You have to stay in tune with your guides and keep up your offerings so that your helping spirits are there to help you and you keep them happy. It's a relationship of building it on. And I've noticed that anybody that has issues where they're like, well, I used to be really good, but now spirit has just kind of fallen off. They don't talk to me anymore. And I'm like, well, are you talking to them? It's a
Hmm.
relationship. it goes both ways. Pick up the phone.
Right,
You
right,
know, if you've gotten busy, then of course they're not going to talk to you very much. It's just the way it goes. And so I had a really good thing that my partner told me the other day, because I was like, oh, I'm just frustrated. And he was like, well, the gods don't give out handouts. You've got to work for it. And that is so true. They will do everything they can to give you energy and positive vibes and a push in the right direction, but it's up to you to pick up your feet and walk.
right.
So, and that's what I'm trying to get clients to understand at the moment, is that you can gong on bells all day long and say prayers and stuff, but until you get up and go do it, you're never going to get what you want unless you change something or do
Right.
something different. And thinking you can do the same thing over and over again and get a different result is the definition of insanity. It's
Right,
diabolical.
exactly.
I mean, so why would you do the same thing and expect to come back to me different? No, you have to change. And so the first thing I ask is, when I have a client that is a repeat client, and I'm like, well, how are you feeling? And they're like, oh, I'm not good. Well, did you do your homework? Because I will always give my clients homework. I can start the process for you and clear out the energies, but it's up to you to maintain it.
Right,
It's
right,
up to you to choose to take out things from your environment that are keeping your energy down, to take out people and places that are restricting you. And I will illuminate those things in a session, but it's up to you to take action. It's not going to disappear on its own.
right, right.
Right.
And I feel like, that brought up something that I feel like we have to talk about, because I don't know. Um, okay, the internet, we connected over the internet. The internet
Yeah.
is a fabulous resource for connecting and
Yes, it
learning and
is.
growing. But we have to reconnect with the physical, with the earth, with the energies around us, with spirit. Because if we're only living in this part of our
Mm.
bodies, well, really from here up,
Yeah.
then we're missing out on a lot of, and so from what you said, controlling what
Mhm.
you're consuming, not
Mhm.
only controlling what you're consuming, what you're eating,
Food-wise, yeah.
but it's
But what you're
also,
listening to, who
yeah,
you to, what you watch, what you read, you have to be
uh-huh,
very careful. Mhm.
right. And also allowing yourself to be drained by external
Mhm.
sources,
Oh, for sure.
yeah.
Like, I took a 30-day break from Facebook on my regular, page,
High
and it was,
five.
oh, I know. It was hard, but it was wonderful. I felt so light and so de-stressed, because I didn't realize, scrolling through my phone, how one meme or one GIF could completely shift my energy
Mhm.
from high vibe to low vibe, and just frustrated and angry, and how could someone be so ignorant, and and then I'm like, oh my gosh, I am literally letting colored dots irritate me. And the
Right.
moment that clicked in, I'm like, it's a spell. It's a spell. These people are doing this just to get a rise out of you. They're the trolls under the bridges now.
Mm.
you
Right.
know. And those used to be myths, but it's more of a reality than we can imagine. You know,
Right.
they have a saying, there's nothing new under the sun. So all of these things, I mean, they had demons, like succubuses and incubuses. Well, now we just call them energetic vampire. It's the same thing, but it's just, these are things our ancestors dealt with too. People
Right.
don't change just because they hide behind a screen. If anything, their masks have gotten more sophisticated. And
Right.
so it's us as healers to really help people understand that that is still a mask. That is still a form of magic, even if you don't realize it. And so that's why on my Facebook page, I especially try to share inspirational and high vibe material, or truthful material that makes you think and makes
Right.
you look behind the curtain, where everything is really going on, or
Right.
either empowering to you to do it yourself.
Right.
Because I think that's when I had a huge spiritual shift, is whenever I was just waiting and waiting and waiting for God to tell me what to do. You know, God, please give me a sign. God, please give me a mission and a vision. And it wasn't until I realized I had all the people around me I needed. I had all the material. I had all the knowledge. All I lacked was the will to get out there and do it. And the moment I said, I will, and I did it, life just exploded and opened up. And
Right.
so transformative, you know, and all those fears of like, well, people will reject you, or, you know, you grew up in a Southern Baptist family. What are they going to think if you're reading tarot cards? You know,
Right.
and so those were my own personal hangups. And I know I'm not the only one. I know I'm not, because it's just that it's so deep seated in society that those are bad things. And they're not. They are tools. Yes, they have been used by bad people or bad things, but that doesn't make it bad. It's
Right.
literally a tool. And so it's how you use it and your intent, like you said, inviting the highest good into it. And you can even do that. It's funny that you brought up shows and stuff, because I wrote down here that bibliomancy is kind of a new magic that I've been getting into. And the old version is, you know, where you open literally the Bible and you read a Bible verse, and that is a fortune or a fortune cookie type thing for you, you know. It helps us
Right.
overtell. But it was this, that when I wrote my 2 books, I noticed that after I wrote a book, I had to live through that
Oh,
shit.
wow.
Or as I was writing it, I was living it. It was
Mhm.
like, and I was like, wow, this is some powerful magic. And then I started realizing that books that I had read as a child were coming true, or they were making shows about them on HBO or VH1. And I was like, why are these all things that I have personally read? You know, like, how is this coming into my existence? And so it's just, I was wanting to tell people with synchronicity and this new enlightenment ascension movement, the beauty of bibliomancy is that if you pay attention to the books you read and the shows you watch, spirit is constantly speaking to you and giving you messages.
Mhm.
I mean, it is astounding how much I can pick up for a psychic reading if I pay attention to the shows I watch, or just little sayings the day before that really stick out. If I write them down and I tell it to my client, it is exactly what they need to hear.
Right.
And the reading is perfect.
Well, and I've been encountering that when I do email readings, and what I'm typing, I hear from, like, if
Mm-hmm.
if the TV is on or something like that, if my kids are watching TV or something, and it's exactly what I'm
Mm-hmm.
writing. And I'm like, okay,
Whoa.
universe, like, like everything focus.
Message received.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. And it's like, and it's so great because it's confirmation, and that
Yeah.
is so wonderful. And that's, I feel like that's what a lot of us in our role don't get a lot of. And so we have to pay attention to those little moments where there's confirmation and there's strength and empowerment in the environment around us. And so whenever you surround yourself with a higher vibe of listening to good television shows, eating a good diet, exercising, hanging out with really good, decent people that actually lift you up, it's amazing how spirit shifts and you're able to really kind of sift through some of the stuff you don't need and find those nuggets that are just amazing and powerful. Yeah, it's really
Right.
incredible.
Right. And then allow that to be your focus. And then,
Yeah.
I've been seeing it as like this, like almost like a kaleidoscope, but where you can't really
Mhm.
see the full end of it. But as you go from one space to
Yeah.
the next, then it becomes clearer and clearer and clearer.
Mhm.
And you're able to, even moving obstacles out of your pathway. It's
Yeah, it's
amazing.
amazing. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
completely agree. And you know, and there's, like, I was going back to 2020 being a big year. I'm reminded, and I have been getting this over and over and over again, of a Bible verse, speaking of bibliomancy, of Acts 2:17. It says, in the last days God says, I will pour out my spirit on all peoples, not just Christian, not just Jews, all peoples, okay? And your sons and daughters will prophesy. Your young men will see visions, and your old men will dream dreams. That is so important. That is directly from the Bible.
Which we missed the
Oh,
book
Acts
first.
2:17.
Act 2:17.
Acts
Okay.
2:17.
Okay.
And I
Yeah.
can send it to you so you can put it in the link
Please
down there
do.
to
Yeah.
read.
Yeah.
Because it's such a powerful verse. And the moment I read that verse, it popped up on my Facebook page. And I had a client that it was just asking me, well, why do I have these gifts? Like, it doesn't feel like a gift. It feels like a burden. I'm like, yeah, but it's because God is sharing with you part of his spirit, and it's an awakening and a beautiful way of seeing. But there are going to be so many others that are getting this gift, and it's going to be great that we have so many trained people that are ready to teach them what's going on.
Right. Right.
Because I'm already getting people flooding my inbox saying, I feel like I'm going crazy.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
I feel like I'm going crazy. I'm hearing voices. I'm seeing things that aren't there. I'm like, well, first of all, you should probably talk to a psychologist, but also, make sure everything's okay there. And then if you're still hearing things, come back and talk to me. Because
Right.
first, I always want to make sure somebody has seen a medical professional. But then also, yes, it's very important because,
Yeah.
I can only handle certain amounts. And it's
Right.
better to have a team for you.
Mm.
So what's neat is if your body and your mind are taken care of, we can help your spirit heal.
Right.
That's my. And so it's once you've taken those steps and you're still having those issues and they're still really strong, then that's when you can step into the shamanic journey. Because that's literally what happened to me. My awakening experience was not pretty, and it was not a glorious experience like everybody says it's going to be. But mine was more like Christ on the crucifixion. It was
Oh,
it was
wow.
yeah, I actually ended up hurting my back and had spontaneous Kundalini awakening.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
So I
Yeah.
had a shock of lightning shoot up my back, and then 6 months later, I was getting a discectomy surgery for 3 herniated discs and ended up addicted to opiates. And so I was just in this haze of visions and voices and everything. And then I came out of it, and the visions and voices didn't go away. And so then I thought I was going mad, um, until I finally went to a massage therapist, is what she calls herself, but really she's a shaman. And I booked myself for a massage, and she goes, you don't need a massage, you need a Reiki session. And she did Reiki on me, and that completely aligned everything. I think it was just right, just the right moment, right teacher, right place, right time. We were all in the right mindset, and God literally gave me an instant healing. And I was like, this is incredible. And so I got down on my hands and knees and I said, teach me.
Right.
Like, I'm so thankful for what you just did for me. I want to do this for other people. And so I love people that come to me with that mindset of, I'm terrified. I've had some scary things happen. I've been in a lot of pain lately, and I don't know where to go. And so those are the most beautiful people to help find light.
Right.
Because like coming back full circle, you asked me at the beginning, am I afraid to go into the darkness? No, I will wade as deep as possible. I mean, there's nothing that will scare me. I've seen the worst in humanity. So in spirit world, it's just the same. I will go into that thick dark forest with thorns and come back bleeding and broken, carrying you back on my back, because
Wow.
that's what I promised to spirit. Because that day, whenever I asked, please help me, I said, I will devote my life to healing if you will show me
Right.
how to do this. And spirit, I heard spirit say for the first time after that Reiki session, a first clairaudient moment where spirit said, okay.
You got
And
it.
I was like, oh no, what did I do? I was like, I feel like there's a catch. Yeah.
Well, the catch is that you had to shift everything and
Yeah.
allow.
And I did. I had to, because I was such a nervous person on one-on-one talking with people. I was more comfortable in crowds because I could disappear a little bit. And it was so nerve-wracking for me, those first few clients where I'm just one-on-one, really seeing someone's soul, because obviously they can see right back into yours when you're
Right,
doing that work. And so I had to start the work of, I had to make my interior presentable for others to come in, and there were some jagged edges that if they would have came in when I first started, it would have hurt people. I would have been harming more people than I helped if I hadn't done the internal work of facing my shadow and healing my past. And especially in America, where they have, I know this kind of gets into politics a little bit, but where they have, mandatory circumcision. That is something that as a young man, I didn't realize traumatized my baby spirit.
right.
And then subsequently I had that, first of all, and then 2 months later, I had surgery for pyloric stenosis.
Oh
So
gosh.
I had two like really, really huge surgeries within 2 months of life. And so I was carrying around this trauma of the world is bad. The world is painful. The world is pain and it will only hurt you. I was carrying that around. And so I had to shamanically journey back to baby Bradley and hold him in my arms and say, someday this will all be okay. And
Right.
someday it won't hurt. I promise.
Wow.
This is all happening for a reason. And I even said to him, they know not what they do. They don't know that, mutilating you is going to affect you mentally so much like
Right.
it has. And I'm wondering that since we're one of, the leading nations that do this, we're also the biggest nation for toxic masculinity.
Hmm.
So it's like part of this unwritten, hidden club that we are literally traumatizing baby boys at an early age. And it creates a monster because there's so much unhealed trauma. And funny enough, it was not a man healer that brought this up to me. It was a woman
Right.
who had the guts to say, well, have you talked to your child self about your circumcision? And I'm like, what? No, I didn't even know that was a thing. Like I didn't, and then my awareness came into it and I'm like, yes, that is exactly what I need to do. And that
Right.
heals so much sexual trauma. That heals so much uh what am I looking at? Disgust for self, even, because you're like, why would they take something from me? If
Right.
I'm not perfect, if I'm not perfectly made. And then it was it was so healing on so many levels. And so any men listening to this, please do the work of going back to yourself and healing that childhood trauma, because it happened. And I've discovered on this shamanic journey that trauma that happens whenever you're so young like that and you can't cope mentally or work through it is buried in your DNA.
Right.
And so it comes out as rage and anger and spouts of hate, and violence. I feel like that's literally what it stems from. And if you
Right.
don't heal that, it will just keep boiling up and hurting the people in your life.
Right. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Because you're
Wow.
still bleeding
Yeah. Yeah.
and bleeding all over everyone else.
Yeah. Wow. I never even thought about it that way because, yeah, because I'm a woman. So,
Right.
it just never
What do you mean there
occurred
are
to me.
other things that women go through? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
especially, if you had a parent that wasn't very understanding of your first, menstrual cycle, and you were, you know, filled with shame about that, or whether it was the first guy that, you thought you were in love with tried to come on to you, that can be traumatizing. All those type of things that women go through. I mean, trust me, women have it very, very difficult in this world. And I completely understand, because a lot of my clients are women, and it's it's nice that I get to work with women, because I think
Right.
I get to show them we're not all like that.
And
Some of it
that, yeah,
safe.
yeah,
Hmm.
that's super important because especially, yeah, we carry generations worth of trauma. I know my
Hmm.
great grandmother fled this area where I'm living now because the soldiers were coming through and they were killing babies. And
Hmm.
she overheard this and she's like, juice, bye, I'm out of
Hmm.
here. Yeah. And so you get that whole, the world is not safe. And so that is what she's thinking. And if she's carrying a child, the world is
Hmm.
not safe is
A
being
child
like,
with it. A child with it.
yep.
Hmm.
Hmm. And
And so you
that's,
have to go back.
yeah, not only going back, but also we have so much power in this present moment
Hmm.
to erase that, not to erase it, but
Hmm.
to come to terms with it and say, that was then, I'm safe now,
Hmm.
and to
Yeah, so it's
heal.
almost as if not going back, but bringing the past here to see this is the now.
Yeah,
This is my life now. And that's what I did with my baby self, was I took myself here and saying, look, we have a partner, we have a home, I'm doing what I love.
hmm,
This is amazing. And then it's funny. I had a moment where I thought, wait a minute, were these the visions that I had as a child? When I'm doing these shadow works with my younger self, taking them to show them my new life, because when I was a kid, I told my mother I'm going to be a magician,
oh, cool, wow,
and she was like, "Oh yeah, cards." I'm like, "No, it doesn't have anything to do with cards." I remember saying that, and she just looked at me funny.
right,
But it's these gifts that we have are normally hidden in families, and so it's so beautiful that they're finally coming out, and that there is a safety here, because i I've heard some psychics say that there's a witch hunt coming, but I'm holding on to hope that that is not true, because I don't feel
yeah,
that at all. I just feel like that's not my timeline. Sorry.
right.
That timeline is another one that we have collapsed and healed. But I'm on a timeline where we are going to actually be able to practice openly, and out in the state parks, and there will be festivals all over the world where people are of all religions are coming together, and we're all understanding of one another. We don't think one is better or one is worse. We just know that everybody is in need of something. And
Well,
I'm
not
like,
only in need, but connected and
yes, connected. That's
capable,
a better word. Thank
and and really, because I want to share this with you, I want to share this vision of hope and of
you. Mhm.
connection with each other, with the earth, with the people around us, and with,
And isn't that what we all want?
right.
Connection and love and understanding and compassion. I mean, that's
Mhm.
what we all want in the end.
Right,
I don't think there's anybody that wants hatred or violence, or nobody wants that. I mean, it,
yeah,
it just is a sad how it happens in the world sometimes. And so I think we need to shift to, well, what do I really want? Asking
right,
ourselves, which I think we're the first generation that can really ask ourselves, what do we really want? And so
right,
that's why I think we're stumbling around in the dark a little bit, trying to figure it out, but we're getting there. And
right,
it's better than we think. That's a thing me and my partner say, better than expected.
right. That, or even better, is
Yes,
how, when,
better than expected. Yes.
yep, yep. And when you're blessing other people's visions or their goals or their missions, yeah,
Mhm.
that or something better.
And that's a
So
huge
it is.
thing, is this community that we're creating and building together. Is I think we can't forget that even if you don't completely agree with someone's work or what they're doing, it is always good to lift them up and help them along, because you will never know when you need help in return.
Right,
And so it is always good to help people and send that out there, because I feel like the more abundance you give others, the more abundance comes right back to you.
hmm,
It's this beautiful, it's the law of attraction. I mean, That's no secret anymore. The secret, let that out of the bag. But I mean, but that's only one part of the, one part of the equation. But it's an important part of the equation of, what you think and feel, which is affected by your environment and your appetite, and what you eat and what you bring into your sphere of influence is going to affect what you manifest. And
Mhm.
it's so important because people are saying sometimes karma takes a long time, but I feel like we're in an era right now where karma is almost instant.
Yeah, I don't know about you. I've always been an instant karma kind of
Yeah,
person. So,
I'm one of those people, I will say something bad and I will literally stub my toe on the nearest
right,
object and I'll
right,
fall flat on my face. And I'm like, okay, that was wrong. I'm sorry.
right. Yep,
Yes, it's true. Yep,
yep.
I agree.
And the thing that I'm teaching also is my own children is I am not perfect. I'm far from perfect. And there are times when I do trip and fall. And
Mhm.
then I go to them and I'm like, that didn't feel good when it came out of me. And I'm really
Mhm.
sorry. And, and I think that's so important to teach people
Mhm.
like that almost instant or even after some thought, like, I'm really sorry that I hurt you
Mhm.
because
Yeah, to admit that you might have misstepped or that
yeah.
you could or that you could be wrong.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Because I mean, because not only do healers like us and psychics and Reiki masters and whatever path you're on, not only do we have an ego, but I feel like there is an entity called the spirit ego as well, where it's in the tarot. There's a Hierophant card, guys. It's the one where you think you're all that in a bag of chips and you should be bowed down to and worshipped and you're the only mediator of God. No, no, no.
Right.
Because the card that comes right after that is the devil. And you're yeah. And so it's like you realize that it's a stumbling block for all of us to finally be able to admit I'm not perfect, but I'm perfectly imperfect.
Mhm.
And that's the beautiful part of it, because I've made many, many mistakes on this road, as we all have, but at the end of the day, my heart is in the right place and I'm trying to bring people towards healing. I might not have gone about it the right way, but luckily spirit uses the end results to bring everybody into healing, myself included. And sometimes that's what you have to admit is just because I'm a healer don't mean I'm done healing myself
Right.
at
It's a lifelong journey.
all. Yeah, no, because it's like that room of mirrors where the mirrors just keep going. Like that's what I always see when it comes to healing self. You might not always have to go see a shaman, every week or whatever, but you do have to continue the work because as you get older, you accumulate more negative energy every day just by coming into contact with people and choices and decisions. And you may have made the best choice you could at the time, but it might not have been the best choice for you energetically. So you
Right.
have to account for that. You might not be proud of it, but you did the best you could because your hands were tied. And sometimes those are the hardest things to forgive is
Mhm.
you didn't have a better choice. And you
Mhm.
have to forgive yourself and say, but I did what I could.
Right.
I think
Right.
those are important. And also, healing relationships with elders is very, very important, um, because elders are the ones who pass down a beautiful perspective that we don't get. They're in that they're not in the participation part of their life. They have become observers, and so they can see so much more from the outside looking in
Mhm.
than we can. Because my grandmom is 86 years old and a diehard Christian, but she is the most witchy, savvy, intuitive woman I have ever met. And I'll go over to her house and she'll bring out her Bible and be like, I have to read a Bible verse to you. It's gonna blow your mind. And it does blow my mind. It's like, oh my gosh, I prayed about that today, Grandma. She goes, I know. God told me I need to. I mean, and I'm just like, Grandmom, that's psychic. And she's like, no, it's not. It's just God being God. I'm like, no, that is literally the definition of psychic.
But I love that. That's just God being God. That's just
Yeah,
God being
yeah,
God.
and that's the way it should be. Wouldn't it be
Right.
great when we don't have to label ourselves as psychic or Reiki master, shaman? I just want to be Bradley, and like I just help people. Like
Right.
that's it. That's all
Right.
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. That's just Bradley being Bradley. That's just Sue being
Yeah.
Sue. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's
Yeah.
how it should be because I feel like I have finally embraced my natural state, and it took a lot going through a lot of past lives and a lot of traumas and awakenings and initiations to get there. But literally, that's just the conditioning that I had to break through before I got back to that little baby that came into this world that had a hankering to help people.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And I was able to finally dive in and do the work.
Right.
So, because I think that's what a huge part of our job is peeling back conditioning and programming that we have told ourselves that is completely
Mhm.
false.
Yep. Yep. And that we've learned from society and that we've picked up and or that we've just negatively kind of assumed. But yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So if you were to leave the audience with one nugget of wisdom, what would you say?
It is my favorite saying and quote from the Oracle of Delphi in Greece.
Okay.
And it goes, know thyself. If you can know yourself, and you will know that you are the I am, and the I am is connected to you, and you are connected to all, then we are all one people, and we are all one planet. Because to ask spirit before you cast those bones, before you go into healing, you have to know who you truly are. And that is very important because that is the best way to get effective healing is to know who you are.
Wonderful. Beautiful. Well, again, Bradley Scott, thank you for being here with me. Thank you for chatting with me. It was a lovely conversation. Where can we find your work? And I'll put links below the video.
Okay. I have a YouTube channel. It's Wildfire and Earth. And I have a couple of videos about clairvoyance and clairaudience. I did a little series called Spiritual Gifts, a Sensual Experience, because it's all
Okay.
about the senses. Yes. Nice name. And then you can also find me on Facebook, and the link will be down below, but it is also Wildfire and Earth. So, yeah, you can find me on there. Oh,
Wonderful.
and
Oh,
also on Amazon.com, look up
yeah.
Bradley Scott, and I have 2 books available. There is The Fool's Journey, Raise the Vibe, Heal the Tribe, along with that's kind of the beginner's guide, and it starts with the tarot from the Fool card, goes all the way to 10, the world, not the world,
The
the wheel,
fortune, Wheel of
there we go,
Fortune.
the Wheel of Fortune, yeah. And then the second book is Wildfire and Earth, Heart, Soul, Spirit. And that is from the 11th card all the way to the 21st card, which is the world. So it's kind of the same journey repeated. And it's just,
At a higher level.
yes, it was just that I keep getting the spiral dance and about how even though you're returning to the same place and learning the same lessons, your perspective has changed and you're in a different space entirely. So you're going deeper.
Right.
Yeah, check those
Yes.
out on Amazon, everybody.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I can't
Mhm.
wait. So I'm going to check them out too. So,
Oh, yes. And right now, if you have Amazon Prime, you can rent those for free.
oh, awesome. I do.
Yeah. From
Woohoo.
Yay! Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of people get it for Christmas, so that's a really good thing to say. Read it now while it's free.
Yes, exactly. All right. Well, wonderful. Thanks again, Bradley. It was
Thank you
truly a
so much.
blessing to speak with you today. Thanks again.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. So, again, this is Sue Ellis-Saller from Spiritual Business Spotlight. We are bringing new and up and coming spiritual leaders into the spotlight. Take care. Have a fabulous day, people. Blessings.